Well, hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and if many of you didn't know, today marks Corio Day of 2021. Corio Day comes from a special man, and actually quite a surprising man, actually. That is the centenarian Phil Corio. He's an American, he's an Italian, well, half Italian, of Italian ancestry, but he's American, who was born and grew up in New Jersey, born to, I think, Italian parents, very likely, and today is his birthday, because if you didn't know, he is now 109 today, 109 years of age, which, living to 109, or any age older than 95, is nothing but astonishing. And if you didn't know, if many of you didn't know, he survived COVID at the age of 108. His son was very ill at first, but then after his son got COVID, he got the COVID, fainted in his bathroom, and was taken to hospital via an ambulance, ending up in hospital for 3 days, diagnosed with pneumonia, and which actually had turned out to be COVID-19, what he'd contracted. And he got better from it. He was going to be sent to the quarantining arena in the hospital following his COVID battle, but after his son learned it, observing the truth of the quarantining system in the New Mexico hospital, the Albuquerque hospital, I should think, his son managed to get him out of the quarantining system and got him back home once he successfully got better from the COVID. But it wasn't reported until about a couple of months later that Phil had survived COVID at 108. And at that point, he was the world's oldest COVID-19 survivor, being the work of this coronavirus survival at 108 years of age. He was the world's oldest COVID-19 survivor from 2020, when it was found out he had in fact contracted COVID and survived it at that age, and until February of this year, when it turns out there was an 117-year-old who, very nearly 117-year-old who had survived COVID, which is just shocking. Oh, my gracious. Some of these older people who can actually fight off COVID like it's nothing, or no worse than the flu to them. Good gracious. But Phil Corio led quite an interesting life, being known to play many sports, followed Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. He even met Frank Sinatra in his younger days, because Frank Sinatra, his first wife, actually turned out to be Phil's friend's sister. Well, Phil's friends, one of Corio's friends, was the sister of Nancy Barbado, Frank Sinatra's first wife. And he wasn't very good at the sports he played and couldn't play on his football team, because Phil Corio, oh no. Oh dear, he described Sinatra as being too skinny and light and couldn't play on their football team, and described him as not being good enough because of being too skinny and lightweight in size. Little bit discriminative there, but it was obviously his opinion about him. He liked him though, but once he divorced Nancy, Frank's first wife, of course, Nancy was the sister of Phil's friend. Once Phil divorced her, he didn't like Sinatra after that. No. And he's had many dates in his lifetime, but he never got married until actually quite a bit later on in life, I'm afraid. well, he when he was in his 20s, working in New York as a truck driver for driving a paint truck, well, probably a paint lorry, well, quite likely to be a paint truck actually, yes, in New York and Brooklyn. It was in the 1930s. He had quite a fairly it was nice, but then it became to be quite turbulent and a little bit of a hassle in the end, I'm afraid. It was a 3-year date which then became a hassle over time. His then girlfriend, who probably long but passed away now, her name was Molly Costa, and over time she kept hounding and hounding Phil Corio to get married, and he kept respectfully putting it off patiently. And then they were engaged for 3 whole years, but then in the end it came to realise, because of the pay he was being paid for the job he had, it was just he couldn't afford to have a big marriage. Maybe he could have had a small one, but I think he believed in having a bigger marriage. I think that's what he believed very much in. So, although hounding him so much, he very kindly said to then girlfriend Molly, "I'm sorry, Molly, I can't get married until I get a better job." But Molly got disgusted with him, and then she just completely dumped him in anger and the disgust. Well, cruelly dumping him like this in anger and disgust just because he couldn't afford a marriage. That's really going quite far, I'm afraid. But over the many years that he lived, and getting different work over time, quite so, Phil then met his future wife, Margaret. And once they met, in a click of a finger, they were just talking about marriage. And before long, they got married within a month. I mean, he was only 44 at the time, both of whom, Margaret and Phil, happily got married in 1956. I mean, Phil was then 44 and Margaret, I should think, was much younger. And the couple of whom had 2 sons. And his son is the founder of the electrical solar panel networking company Array Technologies, which is in New Mexico in America, which he founded in 1989. So it's been around for over 30 years and still in operation as of today. I mean, Phil never really retired, but he did retire from his full-time job, but I think he retired actually fairly late. And but then very sadly but happily over years, I mean, he was really very old, but he became a grandfather. And he was actually in his early 80s when one of his grandchildren was born, actually. And really, he could have been a great-grandfather at that age, but I think he's probably a little bit younger than that when he actually became a grandfather. But I could certainly be very, very wrong. But although his granddaughter, no offence to her, if she's watching, I am very sorry. She could pass for being a little bit older than the age she is, but he has a wonderful granddaughter who actually did take a video of him, if you didn't know. And I don't know how many grandchildren he has, but the births of his grandchildren in his later life was an excitement in his lifetime. But very sadly, over time, oh dear, the yawns are certainly catchy, dear oh dear. Well, yawning itself can be catchy, but very sadly, over many years, Phil's wife, Margaret, very sadly passed away in 2000. I should think she was in her 70s, very, very sadly, when she died, which I don't think she lived into old age. No, it was very, very sad when Margaret died. Very, very sad for Phil, actually. And following his wife's death, 1 year later, he moved in with his son. He didn't live in his own home anymore, but he was still able to live independently. I mean, he still just about can, actually. In 2001, he moved in with his son, but, of course, his son and his wife and of course, and I'm sure his granddaughter would have been very much there. But, and he's remained living with his son ever since 2001 for about 20 years now. And, no. But, he began taking up carpentry as a hobby, which I think he did also before his wife died. I think he took that hobby up. But, yes, and then his son set up a little wood shop for him, and then he made things such as knifeboards, butcher boards, and TV cabinets, tables, wooden clock frames, anything out of wood, and his son subsequently set up a shop for him, and he went there regularly for about 5 days a week in the wood shop, and selling things, selling all these wooden products to people who ever wanted to buy them. And he did that from 2001, and he started working again, actually. And he would not stop working until he was 107. So what do you make of that? Shocking, isn't it? As well as greatly surprising. He actually did have to stop for a reason, I'm afraid, with the work. Why that was because he didn't have a serious stroke, but, well, it was a fairly full-blown stroke, what he had, which was in April 2019, about a couple of months short after turning 107, he suffered a minor stroke, resulting in greatly impeding his woodworking ability, so he had to give that up. But other than that, he's absolutely fine. He's still able to do things independently. He can go out, he plays checkers, he can still make his own pasta, he can do many things despite his great age. And back in 2017, 2 years before he had the stroke, at the time of his 105th birthday, his wonderful granddaughter Katie took a video of him for his it was for his belated 105th birthday, actually, because it was shot in early March of 2017 for his 105th birthday. She took a very, very nice video of him actually making pasta, his very own homemade pasta, and then gave him an interview about his life and also what the secret was for his long, happy life. And with a smile, Phil stating the secret of his long life, Phil said it was, well, Phil Corio himself stated it was down to no smoking and keep breathing, which is I think is a fantastic secret for a long life. I think many older men his age, and certainly younger, their secrets of their long lives are always down to women, for nearly a great many of them, but not all, but for some. I mean, there was a centenarian, C.S. Thompson. I mean, he's passed away now, but when he was 102, the secret of his long life, sorry if this is getting off subject, but the secrets of his long life was wine, women and whiskey. Oh my! Ooh. Could you imagine to have a secret of a long life like that if you're over 100, if you're a man who's over 100? I mean, but that was Phil's secret of his long life: no smoking and keep breathing, which is an excellent secret for a long life, I do say. I mean, and I think it's still very much the secret to his long life as of now. And of course, before long, that's when the news came, and 3 years later, he'd survived COVID. He and his son survived COVID, and but he's very much better, and I should think he's already been vaccinated against COVID-19, because he's very, very greatly at risk. At 109, which is the age he is now, because it's his 109th birthday today, he'd be very, very greatly at risk from death from COVID, even though he's already had it. But next year, on this day next year, he'll be turning 110. And I think he's very much got 110 in his sights. I think he possibly even has 111 and 112 in his sights also, I should think. Well, he's 109 today. He doesn't look his age, though. He has aged a bit since he had the stroke. But when I saw him at 105, I mean, I would have thought he was probably a robust man in his very early 80s. For 105, I would have thought he was a robust 80, maybe 80, a robust 82-year-old man, something like that. I would have thought he was about 82, 83 at the very oldest. I would have thought maybe 83, I'd say, yes. 82, 83. I would have thought he looked probably older than what Michael O'Connor looked like when he was 105, or even what he looks like now at 107, nearly 108. I thought for 105 back then, and even at 106, I personally thought he looked about 78, Phil Corio did. 78, 79, something like that, and even at 106. But now, he still looks very good, even at 108, he still looked amazing. I thought he looked about 84, I'd say. I would have thought he was about 90, a robust 90-year-old. He didn't lose weight or anything. Following his stroke, he was still like a very robust-looking man, and having survived COVID, I was expecting him to look actually considerably thinner. I mean, a man in his 50s or 60s surviving COVID could have easily looked a lot slimmer than what he looked like having survived it. Yes, and 109 now, I'm sure he's looking just as robust, but I could be wrong. I mean, it's highly unlikely I would live to 109. Oh, no, I don't think I'd even want to live to that age. If I did, it would be a big surprise, but I think I'd probably be living in a nursing home or with family, in a family home or in a nursing home by the time I'm 109. And I think I'd probably be wheelchair bound at that point. But hopefully I'll live into my 70s or 80s, hopefully. Even though I have to sit down more now at my age. No, because the legs get more achy, and sometimes the kneecap, well, mine particularly, can get more achy. Ouch. Not always fun to get older, but you know, there's the moments of excitement with getting older and all the rest of it. You're probably going to slam me for this verbally after hearing it. Thanks so much indeed for watching, everybody. I will show a few pictures of Phil Corio actually before the video ends. Thanks for watching, and I shall certainly see you in the very, very next video. Ta-ta, everybody. Another time. From your friend Foxy. Another time.